What is a stomachion?
A stomachion is a dissection puzzle similar to a tangram. It uses 14 pieces in the puzzle, each of varying polygonal shapes and arranged into a 12 by 12 square grid. Each of the pieces has an area that is an integral fraction, for example, 24, 12, 9, 6, or 3, of the total area of the square, which is 144 units. The object of a stomachion is to arrange the pieces into interesting and often recognizable shapes, such as people, animals, and objects. This puzzle was also an ancient game known to the Greek mathematician Archimedes, c. 287 to 212 BCE, and thus is also called the loculus of Archimedes, Archimedes' box. It is doubtful Archimedes invented the puzzle, but he did explore its geometric aspects. It also now appears that in contemplating the different solutions to this puzzle, Archimedes actually was anticipating the branch of mathematics we now call combinatorics.
What is the 15 puzzle?
The 15 puzzle was introduced in 1878 by American amateur mathematician Samuel Lloyd, 1841 to 1911. He called it the boss puzzle and later the 15 to 16 puzzle. It is one of the most famous puzzles in his book Sam Lloyd's Cyclopedia of 5,000 Puzzles. Tricks and Conundrums, published in 1914 after his death by his son, Sam Lloyd. This puzzle has 16 squares, 15 of them are numbered from 1 to 15 and placed in a 4x4 configuration. With one position, the 16th, left open. The idea was to reposition the squares from a given arbitrary arrangement by sliding them from place to place until they were in numerical order, 1, 2, 3, and so on. For some initial starting points, the rearrangement was possible, for others, it was not. But Lloyd offered a twist to the puzzle. He switched the positions of the squares numbered 14 and 15 and offered $1,000 to anyone who could solve the puzzle. Working out the puzzle became a craze in America, with reports of companies prohibiting employees from playing during office hours. It was as popular as playing computer solitaire is today. Even in Europe, the craze grew. Deputies in Germany's Reichstag played the puzzle. And in France it was claimed to be a greater curse than alcohol or tobacco. But Lloyd knew no one could solve the puzzle, much less remember all the steps taken to try and get to a solution, because there was no solution.
How do you find statistics about criminal justice?
One of the best places to find statistics about criminal justice is the Bureau of Justice Statistics. The Bureau offers a multitude of useful crime statistics, including criminal victimization, crime characteristics, victim characteristics, and incident-based statistics. all of which help the police and other crime-fighting agencies to better understand crime and how it works. But the statistics don't stop there. There are also statistics about law enforcement officers, campus law enforcement agencies, and crime labs, a census of law enforcement training academies, and even statistics about the courts and criminal sentencing. There are also other places to find such statistics. For example, the Federal Bureau of Investigation offers statistical reports, such as the Uniform Crime Reports. UCR, a program started in 1929 that collects information about crimes reported to the police. But in the late 1980s, in response to law enforcement's need for more flexible, in-depth data, the UCR program evolved into the National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS. This more complete system collects detailed statistical data on each reported crime incident and is used by law enforcement, researchers, governmental planners, criminal justice students, and the general public.
What are tiling and dissection puzzles?
Tiling puzzles are two-dimensional shapes that are reassembled into a larger given shape without overlaps. The best examples of these are dissection puzzles. The most common ones are those in which an object is converted to another by making a finite number of cuts, then reassembling the pieces. Most of the cuts are represented by straight lines, but not always. In addition, sometimes the cut object can be reassembled into two or more shapes.
What are some basketball statistics?
One of the main ways a National Basketball Association coach evaluates a player's game performance is by efficiency, which is determined by using the formula, points and rebounds and assists and steals and blocks. Field goals attempted, field goals made, plus, free throws attempted, free throws made, plus turnovers. Field goal percentage, FG%, is determined by the field goals made. FGM, divided by the field goals attempted, FGA. Finally, the free throw percentage, FT%, is determined by the number of free throws made, FTM, divided by the free throws attempted, FTA.
What are logic puzzles?
In general, a logic puzzle involves the description of an event or contest. It is derived from the mathematical field of deduction. Clues are provided and the puzzle player has to piece together what actually happened by using clear and logical thinking, thus the name. One of the most famous logic puzzle pioneers was writer, photographer, mathematician, and illustrator Charles Lutwidge Dodgson, 1832–1898, otherwise known as Alice's Adventures in Wonderland author Lewis Carroll.
What is gambling?
Gambling is the act of playing a game for stakes. It is thought of as the art of taking chances. It is also often called betting. A bet is the amount of money or other object of value that is risked in a wager. Most people gamble with the hope of winning a certain stake, usually a cash payment. But in order to get such a payoff, the gambler must risk money or valuables. Betting these items on the outcome of a game, contest, or other event. All of this depends on the outcome of activities that are partially or wholly dependent upon chance.
What movies had mathematics as their primary focus?
The following three movies were either about mathematicians or had a dominant mathematical theme. A Beautiful Mind, 2001, based on the book by Sylvia Nassar, also see above. This is Hollywood's version of John Nash's rise, descent into mental illness, and eventual redemption. Directed by Ron Howard, it stars Russell Crowe and Ed Harris. Pi, 1998, this dark, low-budget, black and white film is about a mathematician's obsessive search for patterns in everything. While everyone from Wall Street investors to religious fundamentalists want to find and exploit him. Directed by Darren Aronofsky, it stars Sean Gullett and Mark Margolis. Infinity, 1996, this movie about the early life of brilliant and eccentric Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. 1918 to 1988, is both a tribute to the scientist and a whimsical romance. Directed by Matthew Broderick, it stars Matthew Broderick and Patricia Arquette.
What movies had mathematics as their primary focus?
The following three movies were either about mathematicians or had a dominant mathematical theme. A Beautiful Mind, 2001, based on the book by Sylvia Nassar, also see above. This is Hollywood's version of John Nash's rise, descent into mental illness, and eventual redemption. Directed by Ron Howard, it stars Russell Crowe and Ed Harris. Pi, 1998, this dark, low-budget, black and white film is about a mathematician's obsessive search for patterns in everything. While everyone from Wall Street investors to religious fundamentalists want to find and exploit him. Directed by Darren Aronofsky, it stars Sean Gullett and Mark Margolis. Infinity, 1996, this movie about the early life of brilliant and eccentric Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. 1918 to 1988, is both a tribute to the scientist and a whimsical romance. Directed by Matthew Broderick, it stars Matthew Broderick and Patricia Arquette.
What mathematical concept was featured in the movie The Andromeda Strain?
The concept of exponential growth, also known as geometric growth, provided the tension in this movie and the book on which it was based. The basic premise was that microscopic organisms had been inadvertently brought to Earth from outer space by a returning satellite. Once on Earth, they reproduced exponentially, doubling in number every 20 minutes. Very quickly, they spread over the entire planet, killing nearly everyone. And no, we won't give away the ending.
What mathematical concept was featured in the movie The Andromeda Strain?
The concept of exponential growth, also known as geometric growth, provided the tension in this movie and the book on which it was based. The basic premise was that microscopic organisms had been inadvertently brought to Earth from outer space by a returning satellite. Once on Earth, they reproduced exponentially, doubling in number every 20 minutes. Very quickly, they spread over the entire planet, killing nearly everyone. And no, we won't give away the ending.
How does one determine the distance and amount of time a trip will take?
There are several ways to determine the distance and amount of time a trip will take. For example, if the traveler knows that his or her car travels 20 miles for every gallon of gas in the tank, he or she could represent the total number of miles it is possible to drive based on how much gas is put into the tank. This can be expressed as 20G, in which G stands for the number of gallons in the tank. For example, if someone bought 10 gallons of gas to reach a destination, 10 gallons x 20 miles/gallon, the traveler can go about 200 miles. The gallons in the top and bottom of the equation cancel each other out, leaving miles. Another example involves cars and mileage. If the traveler drives down a highway at a steady rate of 65 miles per hour, the driver can determine how long it will take to get to a destination, especially if he or she knows how many miles it is to that destination. The equation is mileage divided by 65 miles per hour, m/65. For example, if the traveler is going 650 miles, the 650 miles / 65 miles per hour equals 10 hours. The miles in the top and bottom of the equation cancel each other out, leaving hours.
What is a mortgage?
A mortgage is a method of using property as security for the repayment of a loan. It is based on a 14th century coinage of a Latin word meaning dead pledge. The interpretation was that the property was dead to the borrower if he defaulted on the debt, and the pledge was dead to the lender after the loan was repaid. For centuries, It's been figured out using mathematics.
What is number guessing?
Number guessing is a game, some say trick. Some people can do number guessing in their heads, as long as the numbers are kept small. Have a person think of any positive integer n, not 0 or any negative numbers. And apply the following steps. For example, a person chooses the number 25 and keeps that number to humor herself. Ask the person to compute 3xn, 3x25 equals 75, ask if the number is odd or even. Odd, if the number is even, tell him or her to divide the number by 2, if the number is odd. Tell him or her to add 1 to the number, then divide that number by 2. 75 plus 1 equals 76 halves equals 38, tell him or her to take that number and multiply by 3, then divide by 9. 38x3 equals 114/9 equals 12.666. Take that number and multiply by 2, 12.666, x2 equals approximately 25. The answer should be the original number or close to it.
Why is Greenwich, England, called the prime meridian?
The reason for Greenwich, England, being the prime meridian is historical. An imaginary line passes through the old Royal Astronomical Observatory, which was chosen by astronomers of the day as zero longitude. The observatory is now a public museum located at the eastern edge of London. It is a great spot for tourists who can find there a long strip of brass that stretches across the yard marking the prime meridian. Here it is possible to straddle the line with 1 foot in the Earth's eastern hemisphere and the other in the western hemisphere.
How can one visualize Pascal's triangle using algebra?
One way of looking at Pascal's triangle is through its connection to algebra. For example, expand, or remove the brackets around, the expression, 1 plus x, 2 equals, 1 plus x, 1 plus x equals 1 plus 2x plus x2. The same can be done with a cube, for example, 1 plus x, 3 equals, 1 plus x, 1 plus x, 1 plus x, equals, 1 plus x. 1 plus 2x plus x2, equals 1 plus 3x plus 3x2 plus x3, and even the expression, 1 plus x, 4, which equals 1 plus 4x plus 6x2 plus 4x3 plus x4. The coefficients. The numbers in front of the x's, in the results are the connection. For the first example, the coefficients are 1, 2, 1, for the second one. 1, 3, 3, 1, and for the last expression, the coefficients are 1, 4, 6, 4, 1. These, of course, are the third, fourth, and fifth lines from Pascal's triangle.
What is a point spread?
A point spread is the predicted scoring difference between a game's two opponents. It is used by bookmakers to equalize two teams for betting purposes. For example, if a person chooses the team that is favored, the gambler has to win by more than the point spread in order to get credit for a correct pick. If the underdog team is chosen, the bettor must lose by less than the spread number in order to get credit for a correct pick. If a point spread is listed as off, this means there is no official point spread for the game. For example, if a person picks Army to win, and the team is favored to beat Navy by 5 points, called a spread of 5 points, Army must win the game by 6 or more points in order for the bettor to win. If Army wins by exactly 5 points, the game is called a push, and no one wins.
What is a puzzle?
A puzzle is a mathematical problem that produces a solution often in the form of rearranging pieces, often geometric, or filling in the blanks, such as a crossword puzzle. Puzzles do not typically require superior mathematical knowledge, but many originate from more advanced mathematical or logistical problems. They also include board games, such as chess, and brain teasers.
How are positions on Earth determined?
Positions on Earth are determined using two numbers that represent latitude and longitude. These numbers are actually two angles, measured in degrees. Degree, minutes of arc, and seconds of arc. On a globe of the Earth, latitude lines circle parallel to the equator, and differ in length depending on their location. The longest line is at the equator, latitude 0 degrees, the shortest lines actually pinpoints are at the poles. 90 degrees north at the North Pole, 90 degrees or minus 90 degrees south at the South Pole. In the Northern Hemisphere, latitude degrees increase as you move north away from the equator. In the Southern Hemisphere, latitude degrees increase as you move south away from the equator. Longitude lines, or meridians, once called meridian lines and eventually shortened to meridians, are those that extend from pole to pole, slicing the Earth like segments of an orange, with each meridian crossing the equator. In the Western Hemisphere, longitude increases as you move west from Greenwich, England, 0 to 180 degrees. In the Eastern Hemisphere, longitude also increases as you move east from Greenwich, England, again, 0 to 180 degrees. All points on the same line of longitude experience true noon, and any other hour, at the same time. But note, longitude lines are not to be confused with time zones, most of which follow a more erratic demarcation. For more information on time zones, see below. For more information about latitude and longitude with regard to polar coordinates, see geometry and trigonometry.
What are the odds when playing craps?
Craps is probably the most popular game of chance in the world. It is also illegal to play in many places. But it has a long history. It was played in ancient Greece and Rome and was even a mainstay of some old 1930s and 40s movies. Craps can be played using a wall and a pair of dice. It is a popular casino game in places such as Las Vegas and even on the internet, with betting on craps involving a complex equation. Its popularity no doubt comes from its simplicity. In craps, a player throws two dice, their number, roll, is the total of the dots on the top faces of the dice. If the initial roll is a 7 or 11, called a natural, the player wins. If the number 2, 3, or 12 comes up called craps, the player loses, but keeps the dice. If the sum of the dice adds up to the number 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, or 10, that number becomes the thrower's point. The player then continues to shoot until he or she throws the point number again, in which case the gambler wins and retains the dice. But if the player shoots a sum of 7 before he or she can roll the point value, he or she loses and gives the dice to the next player. Craps is truly a game of chance, with the probability mathematics of craps fairly straightforward. For example, take the probability of winning on a roll-by-roll basis, in which p equals n, is the probability of rolling a point n. The resulting numbers show that the probability of winning is 244/495. Or the shooter wins about 49.2929% of the time.
What is a currency exchange rate?
When traveling to another country, it is important to know the currency exchange rate, which is the value of a traveler's home currency compared to the currency of the country being visited. For example, like all currency, the US dollar fluctuates daily when compared to other countries' currencies. If you travel to Canada, and the US dollar can buy $1.40 Canadian dollars, then the exchange rate is 1.40 to 1. If you go to New Zealand, and the US dollar exchange rate is 0.5477, then 1 New Zealand dollar is worth 54.77 US cents.
What are some of the statistics used in baseball?
There are numerous statistics used in baseball, including batting and pitching statistics. Batting statistics can be divided into several numbers. The batting average, average, is the number of hits a player makes divided by the number of times at bat. It does not include walks or sacrifice hits. The runs batted in, RBI, is the number of runners who scored on a player's hit. Base on balls, or sacrifice. The on-base plus sluggage, OPS, is a good measure of a hitter's ability. This statistic combines getting on base percentage, or OBP, and advancing runners, slugging percentage, or SLG. It is also more accurate thanks to the adjustment 1.2x OBP and SLG, which compensates for the fact that SLG has a wider range than OBP. Pitching statistics include the ERA and WHIP. The earned run average, ERA, is the earned runs times the innings in a game. Most commonly 9, divided by the innings pitched. The walks plus hits per inning pitched, WHIP, records the bases on balls, walks, plus hits divided by innings pitched. It's a good way to measure the approximate number of walks and hits a pitcher allows in each inning that he pitches. It then compares that amount to other pitchers to formulate a pitcher's index.
What are time zones?
Time zones are any of the 24 regions on the globe, loosely divided by longitude but more erratic in their demarcations, which is divided according to the number of hours in a day. Within each zone, all clocks are set to the same time. Time zones include the International Date Line, an imaginary line of longitude generally 180 degrees east or west of the prime meridian. The date becomes 1 day earlier to the east of this line. Time zones are truly a product of mathematics. Initially, people used local solar time, resulting in slightly different times between towns. With technology, especially trains and telecommunications, more accurate timekeeping became a necessity. Thus, time zones helped solve many of the problems by setting the clocks of a region to the same mean solar time. The time zones made it easy for neighboring time zones to be labeled 1 hour apart. Not that the system is perfect. The hour separation is not universal. And because they often follow political boundaries, the shapes of the time zones can be extremely irregular.
How can people calculate their age and weight on other planets?
It is certainly possible to find a person's age and weight on another planet without actually having to travel there. To figure out weight, one just needs to know the gravitational pull on another planet, moon, or other space body. For example, based on the chart below, if a person weighed 100 pounds on Earth, he or she would weigh 38 pounds on Mercury, 100 x 0.38. A person's age on Earth depends on how many times the planet has orbited the Sun during his or her lifetime. For example, a person 30 years old has traveled around our star 30 times. In order to work out how old a person is on another planet, the person's age has to be divided by the period of revolution, in terms of Earth years. Thus, if the same 30 Earth-year-old person lived on Saturn, he or she would be just over 1 Saturn-year-old, 30/29.5 equals 1.02 Saturn years. On Mercury, the person would be 124.5 Mercury years old, 30/0.241 equals 124.5 Mercury years.
What is the difference between probability and odds?
Probability is usually expressed as a fraction, sometimes as a percentage. For example, if there are 10 pieces of fruit in a jar, 3 apples and 7 oranges, then the probability of taking out an orange is 7/10, or 7 chances of an orange out of a total of 10 chances. On the other hand, odds are expressed as the number of chances for or against, versus the number of chances against, or for. Thus, if there are 3 chances of picking an apple and 7 chances of picking an orange, the odds are 7-3 against you picking an apple. Just reverse this to find the odds in favor, or, in this example, the odds would be 3-7 in favor of picking an apple. In order to convert the odds to probability, just add the chances. Thus, if the odds against a horse winning the Kentucky Derby are 4-1, that means that out of 5, or 4 plus 1, chances, the horse has 1 chance of winning. That makes the probability of the horse winning 1/5, or 20%.
What are dice?
Dice are small cubes usually used in games of chance. Each dice is the plural, has 6 sides numbered with dots from 1 to 6. The dots are placed on the cube so that the sum of dots on opposite sides equals 7. The total number of dots on each die equals 21. They are mostly associated with certain types of games, with the simplest involving a player, or many players, who throw, or toss or roll, the dice for the highest sum. Dice have been around for more than 3,000 years, with evidence found in ancient Egyptian tombs, Chinese burial chambers, and the ruins of Babylon. The Greeks and Romans were avid users of dice and associated games, and they have been popular from the Middle Ages on. Dice have been made from many materials, including ivory, bone, wood, metal, and eventually plastic. Not all dice are square. The cube, or hexahedron, belongs to the group of 5 Platonic solids, or solids formed by regular polygons. Thus, other Platonic solids have also been made into dice, including shapes, polyhedra. such as tetrahedrons, octahedrons, and dodecahedrons, which are used for certain types of games. For more information about Platonic solids and polyhedra, see geometry and trigonometry.
What are some life questions you can figure out using math?
There are many questions you can explore about your own body and age with mathematics. For example, approximately how many Sunday nights can you expect to sleep until you are 100 years old? Just take 100 years, minus your current age, and multiply that result by 52 weeks in a year with a Sunday. For example, if you are 25, the answer would be 125 x 52 equals 3. 900. How many of those will be good night's sleep is up to you. To calculate the number of times your heart has beaten since you were born, you need the help of a watch or clock. First, time your heartbeats per minute. To find out how to count your pulse, see Everyday Math. Then multiply beats per minute x 60 minutes, in an hour, x 24 hours, in a day, x 365.25 days, in a year, x your age. For example, 72 heartbeats x 60 x 24 x 365.25 x. A person who is 30 equals 1,136,073. 600 beats since the person was born. Of course, this is an approximation, since the heart usually beats slower at night. And it speeds up when you see the bill for your latest car repair. Figuring out how much air you breathe during a lifetime is another fun mathematical calculation. If you optimistically decide you want to eventually be 100 years old, and the average person inhales about 1 pint, or 0.47 liters, of air per breath, you can do the math. First, take the number of breaths you take while at rest per minute, say about 21 per minute. X 0.47 liters x 60 minutes x 24 hours x 365.25 days x 100 years old equals 519,122,520 liters. Again, this is only an approximation.
What are card games?
A collection of cards, or a deck, is a set of n rectangular pieces, usually made of heavy coated paper or cardboard, that holds special varying markings on one side and a uniform, identical pattern on the other. The special markings make each card unique, with each marking representing something playable in a certain card game. The most common cards for games is a 52-card deck represented by 4 specifically colored suits: spades and clubs in black, diamonds and hearts in red, with 13 cards of each suit numbered 1 through 10, followed by several face cards: Jack, J, Queen, Q, and King, K. Card 1 is usually an ace, card 11 is represented by a Jack, 12 by a Queen, and 13 by a King. The value of the ace often changes depending on the game. For example, it can either hold a value of 1 or 11, in blackjack, or 14, in bridge. Such cards are also used for many gambling games, such as poker and baccarat. Interestingly enough, the investigation of the probabilities of various outcomes in card games was one of the original motivations for the development of modern probability theory. For more about probability, see Applied Mathematics.
What are the probability and odds of drawing a certain card from a deck?
The probability of an event is usually described as the chances for the event to occur over the total chances for the event to occur, chances for/total chances. In the case of a deck of 52 cards, the probability of drawing a king from the deck is 4/50 seconds equals 1/13 equals 0.077, or 7.7%. As seen above, the odds, or the ratio of chances for to chances against, chances for, chances against, can be found by the formula, total chances equals the chances for plus chances against, or total chances equals chances for plus chances against, or chances against equals total chances for. Thus, the odds of picking a king from a deck of 52 cards is 4/52 4, equals 4/48 equals 1/12.
The problem with this proof?
If x equals y, then xy equals 0. Notice that halfway through the proof, the equation was divided by xy, which makes the proof erroneous.
How are points determined in a real estate transaction?
Hen buying a home through a real estate group or bank. Points may be paid by the borrower at the time a loan is made. This is usually to get a lower interest rate, because the lender often offers certain rate/point combinations that may help the homeowner save money. Actually, points usually refer to the commission charged by the mortgage broker or the loan fee charged by the lender when the loan is made. Points can be also negative, in which case they are called rebates from the lender to the borrower and are often used by borrowers to defray other settlement costs. In general, each point is 1% of the loan amount. For instance, 3 points would be equal to 3% of the total loan amount. There is no set number of points offered by a lender, as it is not controlled by any laws. For example, on a $100,000 loan, 1 point is equal to $1,000, 10 points is equal to $10. 000. A homeowner looking for a loan should try to find a mortgage broker or lender that charges fewer points. Some financial institutions might even be willing to negotiate for lower points. But beware of lenders offering no or 0 points. because they usually charge much higher interest rates than those offering loans with points. Although it is a matter of mathematics and a person's budget, there are some very general guidelines when choosing a mortgage. Low-rate, high-point loans are usually used by borrowers who can meet the down payment cash requirement and either want to stay in a house a long time or want to reduce their monthly mortgage payments. High-rate, low-point combinations are for borrowers who don't expect to be in their houses very long, or who are short on cash.
What is the casino's or house edge?
A casino is a gambling facility that normally includes all or a combination of the following: slot machines, video games, card games, and other games such as Keno, craps, and bingo. In order to make the casino the major money maker, not the gambler, there are certain rules of the casino, including the casino's edge, otherwise known as the house edge. The house edge is the ratio of the expected player loss to the initial amount bet. It is an exact measurement, usually expressed as a percent, of the casino's advantage in a game. A casino earns money by paying winners at house odds, an amount that is slightly less than the true odds of winning the game. There are definitely exceptions to this rule, which is why there are professional gamblers. But the majority of the time, the casino has the advantage. For example, if the house edge for blackjack or slots is 5%, then for every $100 bet initially made, the player can expect to lose $5. This not only helps the casino, but it is sometimes a way for patrons to compare one game to another, and even estimate how much they may lose. Of course, this is not always so straightforward. Some people win and others lose in the short run. But the casino always wins in the long run. There are also exceptions because of the way a game is played, such as in craps, see below. The best scenario would be to have no house edge, or an edge against the house.
What are some statistics used in football?
There are several mathematical statistics used in football. The touchdown percentage is the touchdown passes divided by the pass attempts. The passer, quarterback, rating is determined by 4 elements and their statistical calculations. Percent of completions, average yards gained per attempt. Percentage of touchdown passes, and the percent of interceptions. The average is 1.0, the bottom is 0, and the maximum anyone can receive in any category is 2.375. This is difficult, for a passer to gain 2.375 in completion percents. He would have to complete 77.5% of his passes. Those passers who earn a 2.0 rating or better are exceptional. For example, the National Football League ranks this at 70% in completions. 10% in touchdowns, 1.5% in interceptions, and 11 yards average gain per pass attempt. Rushing is a common statistic commonly heard after any football game on the after-game special. It is the average yards per carry, average, a number measured by the total yards divided by the attempts. In punting, the net punting average, net, is the gross punting yards minus the return yards, minus 20 yards for every touchback, divided by the total punts.
What are the probabilities and odds of being initially dealt certain hands in 5-card poker and bridge?
Because there are a certain number of cards in a playing deck. Mathematicians have worked out the probabilities and odds of being dealt certain hands for certain games. The following explains the odds in terms of chances against, chances for.
What is sabermetrics?
Sabermetrics is the study of baseball using objective evidence, such as baseball statistics. It uses scientifically based data and various interpretation methods to explain why teams win and lose. Sabermetrics was taken from the acronym SABR, or the Society for American Baseball Research, and was coined by baseball historian, statistician, and writer Bill James, 1949.
What movies had mathematics as their primary focus?
The following 3 movies were either about mathematicians or had a dominant mathematical theme. A Beautiful Mind, 2001, based on the book by Sylvia Nassar, also see above. This is Hollywood's version of John Nash's rise, descent into mental illness, and eventual redemption. Directed by Ron Howard, it stars Russell Crowe and Ed Harris. Pi, 1998, this dark, low-budget, black and white film is about a mathematician's obsessive search for patterns in everything. While everyone from Wall Street investors to religious fundamentalists want to find and exploit him. Directed by Darren Aronofsky, it stars Sean Gullett and Mark Margolis. Infinity, 1996, this movie about the early life of brilliant and eccentric Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. 1918 to 1988, is both a tribute to the scientist and a whimsical romance. Directed by Matthew Broderick, it stars Matthew Broderick and Patricia Arquette.
What mathematical concept was featured in the movie The Andromeda Strain?
The concept of exponential growth, also known as geometric growth, provided the tension in this movie and the book on which it was based. The basic premise was that microscopic organisms had been inadvertently brought to Earth from outer space by a returning satellite. Once on Earth, they reproduced exponentially, doubling in number every 20 minutes. Very quickly, they spread over the entire planet, killing nearly everyone. And no, we won't give away the ending.
How can I prove that 1 equals 0?
There is a way to show that 1 equals 0. And it includes an interesting proof. Consider two non-zero numbers x and y such that x equals y. If that is so, then x2 equals xy. Subtracting y2 from both sides gives x2 y2 equals xy y2. Then dividing by xy gives x plus y equals y, and since x equals y, then 2y equals y. Thus 2 equals 1, the proof started with y as a non-zero, so subtracting 1 from both sides gives 1 equals 0.
What is the scale of a map?
Most travel, street, or highway maps show a measurement scale, usually in terms of miles and kilometers. To determine a straight line, horizontal, distance on a map. Take a piece of paper and mark the origin and destination as tick marks on the paper. Then measure the distance between the tick marks based on the map scale to find the distance in miles or kilometers. Topological maps also have scales, but in this case the scale is a ratio representing the measure on a map to some number of the actual units of measure on the Earth's surface. For example, a map with a scale of 1:25,000 means that 1 inch on the map is equal to 25,000 inches on the ground. Because both numbers have the same units, it can also be interpreted as any unit measure. For example, the same map could also be interpreted as 1 centimeter equals 25,000 centimeters on the ground. Or 1 meter equals 25,000 meters, and so on. For those who prefer to measure in miles and kilometers. Most topographic maps also offer a graphic scale in the legend. For more about scales, see Math in Engineering.
What is a magic square?
A magic square is an array of numbers in an n by n square that contains positive integers from 1 to n2 with each number occurring only once. The numbers in the squares are arranged so that the sum in any horizontal, vertical, or main diagonal direction is always the same. This is shown in the following formula: n2 plus 1/2. Magic squares are often divided into orders. For example, a 3-order magic square means 3 boxes per row and 3 boxes per column. In reality, magic squares are actually matrices. For more information about a matrix, see algebra. They can be odd order, such as a 3 by 3, or 5 by 5 matrix. or even order, such as a 4 by 4 or 6 by 6 matrix, magic squares. Perhaps the simplest magic square is the 1 by 1 square, whose only entry is the number 1. Such magic squares have been known for centuries. For example, the Chinese knew about the 3 unique normal squares of order 3. In Chinese literature dating from as early as 2800 BCE, a magic square known as the Lo Shu, or Scroll of the River Lo, was invented by Fa Hai, who is thought of as the mythical founder of the Chinese civilization.
What is Pascal's triangle?
Pascal's triangle, as the name implies, is a collection of numbers in the shape of a triangle. Each number in the triangle is the sum of the two directly above. For example, in the accompanying illustration, the 6 on line 5 is the sum of the pair of 3's above. The next line is 1, 10, 1 plus 9, 45, 9 plus 36, 120, 36 plus 84, and so on. Although the triangle was known to both the Chinese and the Arab cultures for several hundred years before, it was named after the person who brought it to the forefront of mathematics. French mathematician Blaise Pascal, 1623 to 1662. For more information about Pascal, see History of Mathematics.
What are some basketball statistics?
One of the main ways a National Basketball Association coach evaluates a player's game performance is by efficiency, which is determined by using the formula, points and rebounds and assists and steals and blocks. Field goals attempted, field goals made, plus, free throws attempted, free throws made, plus turnovers. Field goal percentage, FG%, is determined by the field goals made. FGM, divided by the field goals attempted, FGA. Finally, the free throw percentage, FT%, is determined by the number of free throws made, FTM, divided by the free throws attempted, FTA.
What are some non-Hindu Arabic numerals encountered around the world?
Although Hindu Arabic numerals are the dominant numerals used around the world, there are some places in which other number symbols are used. For example, there are Chinese, Japanese, Kanji, Greek, Thai, and Hebrew numerals. The illustration lists some of the ones encountered by world travelers. For more information about numbers, see Math Basics.
How does one convert latitude and longitude to degrees from readings containing degrees, minutes, and seconds?
It takes simple mathematics to convert the degrees, minutes, and seconds of latitudes and longitudes into degrees only. It helps to know that there are 60 seconds in 1 minute, and 60 minutes in 1 degree. Therefore, to translate 65 degrees 45 minutes 36, also written as 65 hours 45 minutes and 36 seconds, south latitude into degrees, you would do the following calculation: minus 65 degrees, south makes the number negative. Plus 45 minutes x, 1 degree slash 60, plus 36 seconds x, 1 slash 60, x, 1 degree slash 60, equals minus 65.76 degrees latitude.
What is the Monty Hall problem?
Let's Make a Deal, a once popular television game show with host Monty Hall, who was the master of ceremonies from 1963 to 1986, is the origin of the Monty Hall problem. The same type of problem is also represented in a card game called 3-Card Monty. The Monty Hall problem is similar to the show. A contestant is given a choice of 3 doors. Behind one is a car, behind the other 2 there is nothing. The host asks the contestant to pick a door. After the pick, the host opens one of the unpicked doors, one the host knows is empty. The host then suggests a switch. The big question, and the problem, becomes: does the contestant switch his or her choice or keep the originally chosen door? The mathematical, statistical answer is yes, switch the doors. Why? Because the original probability that the contestant picked the correct door does not change, it is still 1/3. But if the contestant does switch, the probability becomes 2/3. Most people believe that once one of the doors is eliminated, the probability between the remaining doors becomes 50-50, but it does not.
What mathematical concept is used to calculate mortgage payments?
In most cases, a mortgage is based on amortization, which is the gradual elimination of a liability. A financial obligation or debt, such as a mortgage, in regular, fixed, systematic payments, such as monthly, over a specific period of time. These payments must be enough to cover both the principal borrowed and the interest. Although it is usually written in a complex set of mathematical calculations, simply put, amortization means a part of the payment goes toward the interest cost and the remainder goes toward the principal, or the amount borrowed. The interest is then recomputed on the amount owed, and therefore it gets smaller and smaller as the ending balance of the loan becomes less and less. That is why the homeowner pays a great deal toward interest and not the principal for the first several years of a home mortgage. For example, if a mortgage is taken out for $100,000 at 6.5% for 30 years, The fixed monthly principal and interest payment is $632.07. For the first month, the homeowner pays interest on the $100,000, or $541.67, with the remainder of the payment, $90.40, going toward principal. In other words, the debt on the principal is reduced by $90.40. By the next month, the homeowner owes interest on a lesser amount of money on $99,909.60, or $100,000 $90.40. Not the $100,000 with $541.18 going toward interest and $90.89 going toward principal. As payments are made month after month, the interest decreases and the principal reduction increases. By the 360th payment, or 30 years later, the payment contributes $3.41 to interest and $628.66 to principal.
How does a person determine the odds in horse racing?
The track makes its money in a certain mathematical way, when the odds of the horse race are converted to probabilities. They usually add up to more than 1, giving the track the advantage. For example, say a racetrack has 12 races with 4 horses, and the odds of winning each race are as follows. Note, racetracks don't use the same horse in each race. This example is for illustrative purposes only. Horse 1-1:1, probability equals chances for 1 / total chances, 1 plus 1 equals 1/2 or 6/12. Horse 2-2:1, 1 / 1 plus 2 equals 1/3 or 4/12. Horse 3-3:1, 1 / 1 plus 3 equals 1/4 or 3/12. Horse 4-5:1, 1 / 1 plus 5 equals 1/6 or 2/12. If a person puts $1 bets on horse number 2, he or she would have to win 4 out of 12 races to break even. But note, all these numbers add up to 15/12, or 1.25, a higher number than 1, so as long as no horse wins more than its probability, the house wins. There's another way of looking at this type of betting. In order for the gambler to do better than the track, he or she has to win 15 times in 12 races, a physical and mathematical impossibility, which is why the track always makes money. Of course, a gambler may bet on certain low probability horses that win more races than expected, earning a few more dollars along the way, but don't bet on it.
When is a set a superset?
A superset is one that contains all the elements of a smaller set. For example, if B is a subset of A, then A is a superset of B. In other words, A is a superset of set B if every element in B is in A. Like a proper subset, there are also proper supersets, or a superset that is not the entire set.
What is Bayes' theorem?
Bayes' theorem is a result that lets new information be used to update the conditional probability of an event. The theorem was first derived by English mathematician Thomas Bayes, 1702 to 1761. Who developed the concept to use in situations in which probability can't be directly calculated.
Who was the first mathematician to write and solve general algebraic equations?
French mathematician François Veit, 1540 to 1603, also known as Franciscus Vita, is often referred to as the founder of modern algebra. He was not a professional mathematician, but he contributed a great deal to the understanding and spread of modern symbolic algebra. Although some of his work paid tribute to ancient mathematical traditions, Veit created a kind of new math. It was not one based on the traditional geometric visualizations, but rather expressed as abstract formulas and general rules. But Veit still divided algebra into distinct branches partially derived from Greek mathematics. Zotetics, translating a problem into an equation. Poistics, proving theorems through equations, and exegetics, solving equations. He also was the first to combine algebra with geometry and trigonometry. For more about Veit, see History of Mathematics.